Hey, there's nothing better than recording a video about a free agent class when your phone's on a low battery percentage and the video not recording all the way through. So anyway, we're going to be talking about the huge upcoming NHL free agency period that is going to be next summer. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to subscribe. If not, no big deal. Now let's get into it. So the first part of this is basically going to be going through the players' names, some of the bigger names that are set to hit free agency this offseason, as well as a second part kind of talking about some factors that we could talk about during the season, after the season, things that will go into making the decisions. The third part talking about where I think some guys will go, and then some guys that probably will get the chance to walk. So anyway, now that we're going into this, let's get into the first part, talking about the names. So for the UFAs, these are not everybody, but just some bigger names. Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Sebastian Aho, Connor Hellebuyck, Steven Stamkos, and Sam Reinhart. As for the RFAs, you have Elias Pettersson and Rasmus Dahlin. So of course, Toronto's got a lot of decisions to make here with two big name players that are set to hit the open market after this season. And of course, there are some other clubs that really need to sign some guys that are on this list. So what are some things to kind of talk about for now and for the future? Well, I think the big thing kind of ties into two things, and it's a 2-for-1 for two things. So four things, two things wrapped together. The first thing is money. A lot of these teams right now have to figure out, A, how is there going to be money going to work for next year? How is it going to work right now? How are we going to make this work in the long-term picture? How are we going to move around contracts? Well, we have to move around contracts in order to retain these players. At the same time, they also are thinking, if you're a GM of another team, we have got some big name free agents that are going to be hitting the free market. We got to figure out how to make cap work too and make a run for some of these guys. Is it situational? Yes. There's a lot of teams that probably won't be able to make a run for them because maybe the timing isn't right. They're in a rebuild. They are not really ready to contend just yet. They don't have the money to work because of NMCs. Whatever the case is, there's going to be a limited thing. There's not going to be 32 teams that are out to get one player. Maybe there is, but that's going to be something to watch out for too, with the money that you can and can't spend, as well as other teams saying, we might just want to go get him. Now, the second thing here in this middle part is the fact that you have the standings for now and the standings for later. Say a team like Toronto that's right here is going to try to stay right here, or even go up here. They don't want to lose Nylander and Matthews in a free agency period. That would bring them probably to about right here. Does that make any sense? Probably not in terms of value like this, but we're just making a point. As for a team like, let's say, the Lightning, okay, they've been here for a lot of years. They're starting to go here, losing some pieces. Do they want to lose Steven Stamkos? That is their decision. But they have to think about, too, with that money, here's where we are right now. Here's where we think we could be going forward. Are they part of our long-term future? Are they going to be helping us out? Or will we maybe regret this down the end of the line? And how will other teams oppose it, too? A team like Arizona. I'm sure they would love to get Austin Matthews, considering they're down here. I don't even know if that's on camera, but they've got a relatively bright future in terms of prospects, and I know the draft hasn't been what everybody's hoping for them, but they still have plenty of prospects to talk about. Getting a guy like Matthews that was born in Arizona, would be just right here. That would be a good thing for them and something to watch out for. Now, the final part of this would be chemistry. This is the final part of the middle part. You obviously have a lot of these guys that have played on these teams for a while now, and they are probably friends with some guys that are on the team. But at the same time, this is a business. The sports landscape is so much different than what it was even a few decades prior. And a lot of guys understand they got to put themselves first. They got to worry about their family. They got to worry about maybe their friends, whatever the case may be. They have to look out for number one. Will this affect some chemistry within the teams? I don't know. I think the biggest thing would be if contract negotiations get ugly. Say a situation like with Austin Matthews comes around and, the Toronto media always buzzing for quotes. They, get the right clip from him and things get ugly and he basically says something that gets turned into something huge. Now, it's awkward in the locker room because you're saying, well, not really sure what happened there, but you guess what? The media is going to be trying to go up to your locker too to try to get a quote out of you, whether it be good or bad. And you probably just want things to be quiet. And then also too, if things get really ugly, you start to wonder, are these guys invested? Are they wanting to be with us? Are we not good enough for them? Whatever the case is, I think a lot of guys are mature enough to handle it, but, you know, let's say a locker room isn't as close as we all think it is, and maybe a player gets preferential treatment, whatever the case may be. Suddenly the big contract negotiation starts to become buzz, and then the other guys are saying, well, you know, he always gets this, and now he's getting this, and we aren't getting, you know, whatever we want. So I don't know. I think chemistry will be an interesting thing to talk about here, as plenty of these guys, Stamkos has been with the Lightning for forever, it seems like, and that could be an interesting thing there to see how his teammates would react to say, hey, have you got a new deal? Because they might want him to stick around, considering he's been there for over a decade. Now for the final part, where I talk about where I think some of these guys will go, who's staying, who's leaving. Matthews is obviously staying. There's no way Toronto could afford to lose him. There'd be riots in the city. He is a guy that is probably, you know, one of the best two-way centers in the league. Great offense, can score from anywhere. Defensively, obviously been able to make an impact in his career. Has a good face-off percentage for his career, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously been a leader for the team in a while. Has been able to handle a pressure-filled market and produce, so plenty of teams would love to have him. I don't see Toronto ending up leaving him or letting him leave. As for Nylander, maybe he's the odd man out. Obviously, you can look at the fact that they've got some other guys that are on some big deals. How will they get rid of that extra cap? How will they fit him into the deal? I don't know. Maybe he's gone. I really couldn't tell you. But, you know, I'm assuming that Toronto wants to keep this core four together if they could, considering they're coming off of their first playoff series win since the early 2000s. As for other guys, Aho, there's no way Carolina lets him go. And then, of course, Elias Pettersson and Rasmus Dahlin, they are RFAs. Vancouver obviously is not a great team right now, not a team that's been able to go to the playoffs since their little run in the second round during the bubble, but a team that really could use some names to go out there and for fans to put their butts in the seats and actually say, hey, I want to go watch these games, I want to support the team. As for Buffalo, they seem to be on the up and up. They've got an exciting future ahead of them, so it seems. There's no way they let Dahlin go, especially after the year that he just had. Now some guys that could leave, again, Nylander, maybe he's up there, he's kind of a question mark, but Connor Hellebuyck, Steven Stamkos, and Sam Reinhart could be the three that I think are interesting here. Hellebuyck is a guy that obviously has been there, done that. He's been able to win a Vezina, been able to take the Jets to a conference final appearance, and really has been an anchor for them even when the teams weren't necessarily great defensively. Maybe now he's going to say, A, I want money, and B, you know, with me playing a good bit of time in the NHL, I want the second half of my NHL journey to be on a team that is on the up and up, not a team that appears to be heading on a downward trend. The Jets, I'm not saying are going to be awful, but I mean, they could be in a spot where maybe things aren't as rosy as before. As for a guy like Stamkos, a guy that's won multiple Stanley Cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he's older. He obviously could be expecting a decent amount of money. And he also has had relatively serious injuries in his career, and some of them are recent. Maybe Tampa Bay, that is a little bit cash-strapped, would say, you know what, Stammy, it's been a great run, but we got to look out for ourselves too. We keep losing pieces, and we'll be losing you too, but we have to figure out a way to get a little bit younger, even if that means letting go of a franchise icon. I don't know, Stamkos, maybe he stays. It really just depends, I think, on how much money he wants and what they can work out there. A guy like Reinhart would be interesting because he has been able to succeed in Buffalo. He's been able to succeed in Florida. He is, I want to say, about 28 years old, so, you know, again, kind of in that prime range. Maybe you don't give him a massive deal where it's like 8 years. Maybe you give him a 4-year deal to where you can kind of have a midterm deal and get things working there for whoever that would be. And with some of these other free agents, if they still are on the market, Reinhart would probably be cheaper and would be able to work a little bit better in terms of the cap flexibility, as opposed to a guy like Matthews. If he hit the open market, you know he's going to be asking for probably like $15 million or whatever the case is. So that being said, I do think that some of these guys are a lock. They're a little bit more in the air for a few other guys. But I did want to say that, again, most of these players are such big name players. We could very well see the teams sign them during the regular season, sign them, you know, before the preseason even starts, whatever the case is. A lot of these GMs do not want these players to leave, but at the same time, we do know that some of these players on this list very well could leave because maybe it's just their time, or maybe they feel like they want out, maybe the team feels like maybe it's a different way to go. It really just depends, but I do know if any of these names end up slipping into July and they do hit the open market, we are set for a fun free agency period. So what do you think on this upcoming free agency class? Do you think that all these guys will sign extensions with their teams, or do you think that some of them will hit the open market? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe, have a great night, and you love hockey, all right? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.